Welcome back to another episode of Viva La Cats. I am your host, Justin Hiles, and it is a solo dolo type of episode for your boy. Steve is in Italy, uh, enjoying his nice vacation, and Joel is in Chicago. So we're flying solo. Going to keep it a really short episode this week because there really isn't a ton to cover. We're still going to be on a bye week this week. Of course, we have the break after the Northwestern State game. And then we're going to do a little bit of a preview of the Big 12, just some kind of thoughts, just some current rankings, positions of where the Bearcats are at, and what we're going to look at going forward. But all that said, thank you for joining us for another week. And again, this is a 1012 Network podcast. So make sure to check out the 1012 Network on Twitter, Spotify, any of the platforms that you use. Those are our frequent ones, but Apple Podcasts, you can find them there as well. And there's just a lot of great coverage from our entire network. We have everything from BYU, TCU, Oklahoma State, the Bearcats, so on and so forth. There's plenty of great options out there. So for those of you who are looking to find a show to listen to and get all of your best information on the Big 12, plenty of coverage there. So again, make sure to check out the 1012 Network and the 1012 podcast. Shout out Phil, always giving some great coverage around the entire league there in one show. All that said, we are back again. The Northwestern State game happened this past weekend, and it's kind of an interesting one. There's not really it's fun. There's a lot of offense. Clearly, the defense did a great job of making sure that no points were scored. 70-0. So this is one of those games I said last week, coming into this week, that there's really not a lot that we're going to learn here. It's Northwestern State had one singular win this year against Alcorn State. In the first game, they won 13-10. That was their only win in the past 2 years. They are not a good team. Sorry to the Northwestern State Demons, not a great team. There's no other way to put it. There really is nothing good to, again, take away from this game, because every play was a breakdown. Every single play was exactly what you would expect against a team of this level. So that's that part aside. The takeaways that we can get from this game are, just some of the effectiveness, again, of the offense, the ability to, again, in this type of situation with this type of opponent, just make sure you shut them down. That's exactly what we asked for. I will say I had 3 goals last week, which was score a ton of points and play bully ball. Don't let up any points. And honestly, just let it fly. Like, see what you can do. Run some plays, get all the guys involved, see how you can rack it up, because this was a great opportunity for the Bearcats to do that. And they did do just that. One of the biggest storylines from this game and the biggest takeaways that you can get, Brendan Sorsby, again, not the best competition in this game, but he balled out. He balled out 15 for 15, 253 yards, almost 17 yards pass, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions, 99.8 QBR. That is literally perfection. Like, you can't rate any higher than that. And so he did a fantastic job in this game. We got some action from Brady Lichtenberg, which is nice to see. Again, I still think we have a really good quality quarterback back behind Sorsby. So, in any case, if it's later in the game, or if, God forbid, something were to come up later in the season where maybe Sorsby isn't able to play a full game, or has to miss a game, I think we are in a good spot with him. He is a veteran. He's stuck around this team for his entirety of his college career. So great to have him back there. And then, of course, Samaj got some action too. All the quarterbacks in this game got a touchdown, 7 total TDs between all of them. Samaj was 2 for 2, 53 yards, had a nice little bomb just to start it. And then the rest was history. But he, again, didn't get a ton of action just towards the end of the game. And Lichtenberg, 56 yards and a touchdown. First down every throw, basically. So I think, again, a lot of cool things to take away sort of from the passing game there in that regard. The run game was pretty evenly distributed between all the guys who were out there, putting some yards on the board. Tawi Walker, Manny Covey, Brendan Sorsby, Evan Pryor, and Samaj and Lichtenberg all got some good rushes in here. And again, you're not really expecting the defense to do much. If you go and watch the game, it's kind of crazy just how quickly those plays broke down for Northwestern State. And I'm just always going to be of the mindset in this game. It's like nice to have, just kind of gives you a reset. It's a good way to make sure that guys like Dante Corleone are rested. You get that, and then you get the bye week, and then you go into Big 12 play, which I think really does a lot for you. And just making sure that those guys are healthy and are in a good position to start playing ball when it gets serious here in a week or two. And then for the receiving game too, just some call outs here. Caleb Goody had a nice little breakout game, 106 yards on 3 catches. That's pretty good. It's just about the, it's that old Randy Moss meme. Was it like 3 catches, 3 touchdowns, 250 yards, something like that, something crazy. So good for him to see some good action there. Cyrus Allen as well, 4 catches for 59 yards and a touchdown. Isaiah Johnson with 2 touchdowns, Joe Royer with 2 touchdowns, Tawi Walker with a catch touchdown, and then as well a rushing touchdown too. So he got his first touchdowns as a Bearcat this past week, I do believe. I don't think he's gotten one yet. So I think that was the first game that he had that. And again, overall, like you're doing a pretty solid job of just making sure you take care of business in this game. That's all that this was really supposed to be. I think the one thing that, again, I'll take away here, at least defensively, this is a team that is not good. Again, not a good team, but you look at how this game went. Northwestern State, 6 first downs, third down efficiency, 0 for 12. No third down conversions there, which I think is really good. Again, that's just kind of the thing where if it's crunch time, just do it. Again, they're not anywhere close to even what Bowling Green was. But we really did a pretty poor job of being able to shut down Bowling Green in some of those possessions. So just good to see some more reps here for the defense and just get them in a good position. 105 yards that you limited them to, which is great. Through the entire game, they had 40 minutes of possession because the Bearcats were just scoring so fast. They just weren't doing anything with it, which is great. That's what you really want to see if you're the Bearcats. 605 total yards of offense, which is pretty nice, pretty phenomenal. You expect that in a 70-point game. Yeah, and then when you look across the board, again, I think the only thing that maybe you could get a little nitpicky here on is the fact that they had 6 penalties for 65 yards. Again, it is what it is. Like you're looking for something to just pick apart in this game. That's about really all that you can. Maybe those guys just got to kind of get that mindset right and make sure that they're executing to perfection. That's what you need, because the six penalties for 65 yards doesn't mean much when you're playing Northwestern State, but that kind of line of penalties is definitely going to add up when you're playing in the Big 12. So again, that's really most of this game for the Bearcats, Northwestern State. Again, you're going to feel pretty positive about it. As far as just sort of the in-stadium atmosphere, had some little notes here from our boy Joel. He did note that this was the first non-sellout in a long time, in years, but had mentioned that the stadium was only about a quarter full after halftime, which you could expect. The Bearcats put up 35 in the first quarter and 21 in the second. This thing was just blown out of the water at that point. There wasn't really a reason to stick around. And again, big part of that to just a really effective showing in the first quarter with all the starters out there. Just go out there and have fun. And that's what they did. Another fun note that I thought was pretty interesting, pretty ironic, actually. The season opener this year against Bowling Green, 65 degrees and a wear white game. And the second game of the year was a wear black game, and it was 85 degrees, which it is kind of funny. It's just kind of how it works out. But you get to see both uniforms, which is nice. And Bearcats, again, did show up for this game, which is great. Even for the competition, level of competition that you're playing in this game, you'd really expect that you're not going to bring out a crowd. And they got at least enough people out there to make it worth a showing. The student section had a good chunk of people there, which is great. And then one of the other things, which I think is kind of funny, Joel mentioned this to us during the game, was that I guess apparently there was a guy in the stands. I'm trying to remember when it was. I think he said it was in the third quarter or something. Some guy managed to get into the game with bagpipes. And apparently, when a Northwestern State player had gone down with an injury or whatever it was, played Amazing Grace on the bagpipes. It's that kind of game. I don't know how he got in with a set of bagpipes. I don't know if they kicked him out or what happened, but I hope the bagpipes guy returns because it would be fun. Apparently, the band was just kind of like watching and enjoying it. Everybody's listening. It was fun, I guess. So, if you weren't at the game and you're a Cincinnati resident still, you might have missed out. You might have missed out on a lot of offense and bagpipes. So, again, that's really all that needs to be said about the Northwestern State game. The Bearcats now improved to 2-1, and you've got a nice little break here in this off week for the Bearcats to again just get right. It's always good to have a bye week at this point because it just allows you to make sure everything's framed up. Make sure that you can digest that first quarter of the season. You're 3 games under the belt now. And Kansas is going to be the first one up. September 27th here. Got an 11 a.m. kick on TNT. Bearcats are going to go into Kansas with an interesting situation because they really haven't played since the Nebraska game. They haven't played anybody quite at that level yet. The Bowling Green game was, again, there was some sloppiness there, which I think definitely need to be cleaned up. And last week, again, it's just kind of hard to have some good takeaways from. But when you go into this Kansas game, Jalen Daniels still somehow has eligibility. He's a solid quarterback, and I think with what they've got going for them this year, they're going to be an interesting situation. I don't know where they're going to end up in the table at the end of the year, but just as a quick note, I think this would be something to kind of pull up for the Bearcats at least. When you look across what we like to use SP Plus, we like to use K Forward. We kind of bounce back and forth between a few different metrics. But the K Forward ratings currently place the Bearcats at 38th in points per game above the FBS average. So currently 7.7 above FBS average. That puts them right there with a few other Big 12 teams in this little pocket of Arizona State, Iowa State, Kansas, Baylor, again, Bearcats, Arizona, Houston, all kind of in this about 10 or so range, which I think is kind of what you would expect. Again, a lot of the SEC teams are going to be a little bit more towards the top here. But with that said, season change, Bearcats have moved up a little bit. They're plus 2.6 against current preseason expectations. So just a little bit better, but right about where you'd expect. And I think the Nebraska game, again, had that flipped. I think this Bearcats team gets talked about a lot differently, which is sort of the unfortunate thing of how the season started, but we move on. And then the other thing that I wanted to pull here too, defensive ratings. Bearcats are currently ranked 37th on K Forward. And then if you give me a quick half second here, we had it up before and then I lost our page. But we had put out the SP Plus rankings this week. So as according to SP Plus, which puts them not too far off of here, defense is up to 34th, which is pretty solid. We're up 14 spots. And again, SP Plus is a little bit more favorable to just wins and beating teams in general. So if you beat up on a bad team, it's just going to reward you for that. And if you lose to a good team, it's you're going to get penalized all kind of the same and awarded all kind of the same, no matter what your opponent is. So it's one of those things you just kind of have to keep in mind. But they are currently in composite up to 44th, and the offense is up to 50th. Which I think this is a good way to kind of just get a feel for how the rest of the season's going to look. Again, I kind of talked about Kansas there for a second. I think we'll do a little bit more of a deep dive preview next week when we, again, are previewing Kansas with that coming week. We have to have something to talk about next week. So I want to just take this time right now and just kind of talk about, again, a little bit of the SP Plus, but looking at the Bearcats slate for the Big 12 altogether, and kind of giving that preview for what we have coming up here. If you look currently at SP Plus, the Bearcats have already played, of course, Nebraska, Bowling Green, Northwestern State. Nebraska is up to 21 as it currently stands, which is good. It's good for us. It means that they're being rewarded and there is some credit given to where they're currently standing. They, as of the moment, actually, let me pull this up. Had it here earlier. Again, I'm just kind of all over the board. This is what happens when you don't have somebody to bounce off of here. Nebraska, I think, yes, Nebraska is still currently unranked, but last I checked, they had some solid votes. It'll be interesting to see where they end up once they get some of the actual like Big Ten games under their belt. They are currently sitting with 9 votes in the AP and 24 in the coaches poll. So again, like if they do good, it's good for us, as we all know. Nobody's like rooting for them per se, but we definitely want them to do good because I think it'll give us a little bit more credit. Again, we're not looking for any type of college football playoff bid or anything where that's really going to matter. But again, you just kind of want to feel better about that loss there. Again, it's on the road. It's tight. It is what it is. But again, 21 for them. Bowling Green, they're sitting at 101. Not really great. It's just kind of what you'd expect for a MAC team to be sitting around that pocket. But they are on the move up. And then Northwestern State is just at almost the bottom of the FCS. Not great. Not great. So all of that said, looking forward to the actual Big 12 slate. You have Kansas, who's level at 36 this week. Iowa State moving up to 23rd. UCF down to 59. Oklahoma State up to 82. Baylor up to 35. Utah down to 15. Arizona up to 39. BYU down to 28. And TCU down to 24. So now the Bearcats have 7 total top 40 teams left on their schedule as far as, again, SP Plus goes. So I think it's a really good way to sort of look at things. Again, it's SP Plus is basically the best metric for us to use because it's not quite the same. In football, is it you get a lot of deep dive and a lot more tight statistical analysis, I think, for rankings when it comes to basketball. But where the Bearcats currently stand, again, they're sitting at 44th. So if you look across the board, if we were to just take these 1-to-1 right now of what the Bearcats have left on the schedule, if you're higher than the other team, if you have a better SP Plus ranking than the other team, you're going to win. Lower, you're going to lose. Currently, the Bearcats are only going to win 2 more games based on that. If we just put that out plainly, that's UCF and Oklahoma State. I think we all know that's probably not going to happen. But I do think when you look across the schedule, those are the 2 ones that you're keying in right now. If you're asking and questions to Scott Satterfield and you're looking across the board, it's like these are the ones that you have 0 excuses to lose. UCF is, again, Scott Frost, an experienced coach with UCF, of course, had his time with Nebraska in the Big Ten. But UCF is on a new coach this year. They're a new system. They have a lot of turnover. There's a lot that they still have to learn and figure out. And quite honestly, they have not had a super hot start to their season. Again, they are 2-0, but their wins are against Jacksonville State and North Carolina A&T. And the Jacksonville State game to open the season was a 17-10 game, and it was kind of tight. And so they have a game against North Carolina this week. We'll see how that goes for them. I think that'll be a really good tell because North Carolina clearly is not good. Another team with a ton of turnover, like over 70 players worth of turnover. So if they struggle with North Carolina, I think that'll tell us a lot about how we can expect them to perform against the Bearcats. But that little pocket there in the middle, dead smack in the middle of the season of UCF and Oklahoma State, I think those are your 2 wins that you're going to write down right now that you have to have. That there's really, again, no excuses to not win those games based on how the season's played out, based on where you're at, where your trajectory is going. You have to get those games. And they're not going to be easy. They're not going to be fun. they're not going to be take care of business per se, but you have to have those wins. They're not take care of business. They are have to have. Just have to have it to feel good about your season. And again, you're starting off 2-1. Those two games would put you to 4-1, and you're going to be looking for two more to get to six wins in the season. So when you look across the rest of the board, unfortunately, you're going to have to be looking at Baylor at home and probably at Kansas. I think those are the other two games that you're looking at as maybe you can get one over. But again, Baylor with Sawyer Robertson has a really good offensive scheme here. I think they're kind of in this situation now where they are just kind of the classic Big 12. Who would have expected this from a Dave Aranda team? But they have no defense, but they have a whole lot of offense. So maybe Baylor is a possible one, but you have to score. You got to score and you got to keep up. And I don't know. I'd give us the home edge in that game. But at Kansas, again, it's going to be tough. It's a noon start. It's one of those ones where I think this is just going to kind of give you a feel for how the Bearcats are going to perform in the Big 12 this season. It's not a perfect choice to have when you go into the season. You're not going to like say, oh, if I could pick anybody out of the Big 12, I want to start with Kansas. Kansas is not the one you're going to pick. It's probably going to be Oklahoma State. And as it currently stands, I think Kansas is looking like a better team. But they had a really good game against Missouri. Unfortunately, they just had a few things go wrong right at the end, which made the score blow out a lot bigger than it was. It was a very tight game, back and forth to start the border war again, which, again, really cool game there. So for those of you who didn't watch it, good little bit of tape on Kansas just to sort of get a feel for them. Ended 42-31, but it was much more of like a one touchdown type of game. Just a late game mishap that blew up the score. But the other two games they had, Fresno State and Wagner, again, not going to necessarily build a lot of confidence with those types of games, but they took care of business as best as they could in the way they should. So I think we're just kind of sitting similarly in a similar point. We both, they lost to a Missouri team. We lost to a Nebraska team. We beat up on the other guys that we're supposed to. I think the Kansas game to start is going to be interesting, but again, it's on the road. You have to figure out like some way if you can manage to just, again, get out there with a win. I don't expect that in this season we're going to be looking for a lot of like there's no like we got to beat up on this type of team. Like it's the Big 12. It's very tippy, topsy-turvy, like things just change fast. And teams that are not supposed to win. That's what happened with Arizona State last year. Even BYU, those two teams were supposed to be at the bottom of the conference, and they ended up being two of the best teams in the conference. So to that point, I don't see why we couldn't be in the same situation. Again, you look across the board, past Kansas, you got Iowa State after that. And then again, UCF, Oklahoma State, Baylor, Utah, Arizona, BYU, TCU. It's kind of interesting. This is a year where out of all years, you'd ask and beg to have Colorado, to have Kansas State on your schedule. Maybe West Virginia. They didn't look too hot, but they figured out a way to beat Pitt, and kind of in the way that Pitt beat us, quite honestly, last year. So you don't really have those teams on your schedule. You've got Texas Tech on the road. Sorry, no, never mind. I read that wrong. You have again Iowa State on the road, or at home, and then you have Utah on the road. That was the one I was looking for. Wrong red logo. But you got Utah on the road later in the season, sort of like just grabbing all of the Four Corners schools in sort of like one fell sweep, with Utah, Arizona, and BYU. I think these little chunks, you're just going to look at like spreading out the last of the 9 games left on the schedule. Go win in 2 of these, go 2-1. Quite honestly, if you can go 2-1 in each one of these pockets, this is going to be a really good team. And if you separate them out into Kansas, Iowa State, and UCF, find a way to go 2-1 there. You're probably going to lose to Iowa State, but maybe you can beat Kansas. You should probably beat UCF. Then you take another pocket of Oklahoma State, Baylor, Utah. You're in another spot where, hey, Oklahoma State, Baylor, Utah, you're probably not going to beat Utah. Maybe you will. I don't know. We'll see. They're kind of interesting. There's a lot of tape that needs to be collected on them still. But in that section of 3 games, can you go 2-1? I feel like there's a possibility there. And in that last section, we'll see what happens with Arizona. They look a lot better than a lot of people expected them to be, at least to start off the season. They're kind of they're started off 3-0, like they're kind of hot right now. So I think that's another team that we're going to have to watch out for. Again, they beat Kansas State, not a great team. Hawaii and Weber State, they just blew out. So again, it's just not like they have a ton of really good teams on their metrics right now to sort of measure up for the Bearcats. But hey, maybe you win a game there. And then you have BYU at home and TCU on the road. Again, I think TCU is probably one of the better teams in this conference right now. I think that will prove to be the case at the end of the season. Can you get BYU? I don't know. I don't know. Again, it's same situation here. Portland State, Stanford. They have not played anybody yet. They have played nobody. Stanford is terrible. Portland State is terrible. As much as I love the Cougs here, like I just don't think that there's enough on them yet to feel confident about whether or not they're going to be good. And I think for all of the aforementioned reasons, you look across the board. I've said this like 20 times in the show. I'm so sorry. But you look across the board, there's a lot of opportunity here. The question is, Bearcats in year 3 under Scott Satterfield, can you get it done? Can you go bowling? God, I hope so. Can you make sure that when you get to the end of the season that you actually just feel good about the end of the season? Can you win some games on the road? Can you keep from losing games and streaks? I think that was sort of the tough part. When you look at the 2024 season, again, like you started off the season 5-2. You had a nice little 2-game stretch. You lose on the road to Tech, another 2-game stretch, and then you lose 5 straight. So, like, can you build some games consecutively? Can you build some wins? Can you get over that hump? The Bearcats so far, again, under Scott Satterfield, have not managed to win 3 straight games. We're in year 3. Can you find a way somewhere on the schedule to win 3 straight games? UCF, Oklahoma State, Baylor is probably your best shot. Does it happen? I don't know. Again, that's kind of the tough part here is like everybody in the Big 12, I think, has had some of the cupcakes thus far. There's been a few good games and few like really strong opponents for a few of these teams. But as far as our schedule goes, it's really hard to measure that up right now. I think we just have to kind of get into the Big 12 slate and see where things shake out. But again, like I said before, a ton of opportunity here. There's a lot of chances for the Bearcats to go and upset the Big 12, surprise some people. And if you're looking at the upside here, you probably get Kansas, UCF, Oklahoma State, Baylor, Arizona, BYU. You might be able to find 6 wins here. But if you're looking at the downside, you might look at 6 wins. You might look at 6 losses, quite honestly. You might only get UCF and Oklahoma State. You might only get like a Oklahoma State and Arizona or something like that. And so I think this is kind of the thing again for Scott Satterfield. Like he's still got time budget wise for the buyouts and things like that. Cincinnati's not going to make any moves this season, even if things I think crash and burn. I don't see us making any move on him. Or move away from him, I should say. But I think you just got to get this right. If you're Scott Satterfield, you have to find a way to at least go 4-5, if not 5-4. 4-5 gets you bowling in the Big 12. Go 5-4, you probably feel pretty good. And if you can find a way to win 6 games, like I think you clearly shown, like, hey, we made a big step forward this season, and that gives you some renewed confidence in Scott Satterfield. To lead the program and gives you some renewed confidence in the Bearcats to actually make some headway. Again, in a Big 12 that every single year is just like a freaking meat grinder, man. It is just churning out different teams winning each year, especially without Oklahoma and Texas in it now. There's no reason why anybody can't win every year. And it's going to be interesting to see again how all this shakes out. But I've talked a lot about a bunch of different teams of the Big 12, and a bunch about the Bearcats. There's really not a lot else to cover here, so I'm not going to keep you all much longer. The only other things that I think I really kind of wanted to talk about here is when you look across the Big 12, where are the teams that we think might actually, take off? Where are the teams that we think might actually end up being good by the end of the season? I think realistically, you probably have to look at Utah. BYU's a 50-50, but we'll see. But we're going to keep them in the middle to bottom bracket for the time being. But it's probably Utah, Iowa State, and Tech. I think those right now are the outliers. Maybe Arizona State does a little bit of recovery mode and figures it out. Again, I think even when you look for how they performed last year, let me pull it up here. One second here. Almost got it. There we go. Arizona State, again, like they had an interesting year where their only losses in regular season were Texas Tech and Cincinnati, and they were both on the road. Otherwise, again, the team that was picked dead last ended up being a really good team. So I think they have a lot there still. They, of course, lost Scatbo, but I think there's a lot going for them still, and I think they could end up in the top tier here. But again, it's another team that you dodge. So of the teams that you actually have on your schedule, Utah is probably the biggest one that you're going to have to worry about. And they might end up fumbling it away. You never know. I think it's really just Utah, TCU, and Iowa State. And then the rest, no reason why you can't get them. No reason why you can't get them. But all that said, the only other thing that I'm going to speak on now, just a quick little thing. The Reds are dead. So we're not even. This is why we don't talk about the Reds on the show. It's just sad. And the Bengals could be right behind them. I don't know. I am very curious to see how everything shakes out with Jake Browning taking over for Burrow. I think he did a decent job when he took over last time. I think he actually was in the top half of QBs when he took over for him in 2023 after his injury. So I'm curious to see where this goes. And this week in Bearcats news, Desmond Ridder has been signed to the Minnesota Vikings, so he rejoins Ivan Pace Jr. on that squad. But he's been signed to the Vikings, and he might start. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens there. But there is a potential that he could start against the Bengals this weekend, and it's going to be backup versus backup, call up versus backup, and I am just curious to see what happens there. I am very curious to see what happens there. There's a very classic clip of Jake Browning. I don't even remember who we were playing in that game, but should have never effing cut me, if that rings a bell. And I'm very curious to see if that happens for Desmond Ridder, if he gets that opportunity here against the Bengals. As a Bengals fan, I hope not, but for Des, it'd be nice to see him just get another shot. Sometimes you just need it. I think he could still offer some NFL teams some valuable tools. And so we're just hoping for the best. Maybe he gets to start, maybe he gets to play. But it remains to be seen. We will find out. And lastly, the only other thing to mention is Brendan Sorsby, QBR. 7th in the nation right now. Not going to make a big deal out of it. That's why I haven't said it until now. It is what it is. He beat the crap out of an FCS team, a very bad one at that. But 7th in the country, it's cool to see. Can he keep it up when we get through Big 12 play? We'll see. But that's all I got for you, folks. Have a good week. We will come back next week, again, after the bye weekend. So enjoy it. Take this time. Again, I've got a fall wedding week 1. of Big 12 play for the Bearcats when we go to Kansas. So, ban fall weddings. I'm very excited to participate in that with my friend to actually be in it. But ban fall weddings. It's football season, and if you can, just do it on a bye week. Steve had the most amazing foresight last year with his wedding, where he managed to find somehow, like 9 months or 12 months in advance, whenever they plan their wedding, he just so happened to get a bye week where the Bearcats did not play. Kudos to him. That is just great foresight. Impressive. Yeah. I'm done yabbering. Have fun, folks. Enjoy the bye week. And go Bearcats. We'll see you next time. Viva la Cazza!